and stuff, but then there's a way around it to come around the top. I think it's just a short stretch.
We have, a bit short. It's only an email.
6 o'clock.
Just.
Just clear up. Yeah, sneaky, wasn't it?
6 o'clock the agenda.
Can I give you that or just in the way?
No. I'll get on with it started at the time.
Definitely.
No, he's attending.
He's
He
attending,
told me.
Is the mayor coming?
Yes.
Chair on the financial rates. Are you going to talk at all about the changes insofar as they affect you?
Yes, of course, yeah.
Julian's not coming, is he?
No.
I think it'd be good for him to come to one of these meetings.
It does start very early in the August, doesn't it?
Just so people
Yes,
get to know him.
yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
And all is well.
Don't be too sure about that. Don't be too sure.
Christina, it's because there's a clash with the curfew bell ringers supper tonight.
Oh, right.
That's why it was brought forward.
I hadn't heard it had been changed.
Normally it would be 6:30. Shall we start?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
And then who are we waiting for?
The mayor and the mayoress. I've got apologies from Councillor Wilson.
I think
I haven't heard from Councillor Tomlins.
3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
So that's
We've got call.
Shall we wait a second for the mayor?
You can, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
We'll wait a couple of minutes for the
Okay,
mayor,
yeah.
Okay.
deputy.
Yeah.
Mayoress.
There he is.
As if on cue.
Yeah, there you go.
They are live. So that's all right for the mayor to take that action, is it? Is that,
Yeah, oh, another action for me.
A lot of work, but you know, surely.
Sounds familiar,
I've got a hopeful.
a little. Apologies for being late.
Okay.
Right, shall we start?
Yep.
Good evening, councillors, town clerk, members of the public. Welcome to this meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee of Sandwich Town Council on the 19th of February. First item on the agenda is apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Ungerson, who has a travel commitment.
Second is declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted. Anyone?
Nope.
Item 3 is minutes of,
Beg your pardon, sorry.
with the mayor's,
Yes, I think
Yeah.
it's item number
the
7.
mayor's cushion,
I
yeah.
obviously will not be voting on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee to receive and approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 22nd of January and to consider any matters arising. That's attachment 1. Do we have any matters arising, Councillor Shukran?
Yeah, just it's a question and then just clarification. So FGP 0125-9, this was around the interim grant award scheme that we're running.
Yeah.
The question is, how many applications have we received?
We have received 8.
8, okay. Which then goes on to the second part, which is
panel.
not more of an observation. We've got the panel that will be meeting, and I'm not part of that.
No.
But I just wanted to draw the attention, particularly for Town Park, in terms of that meeting, those that are going to it. In the minutes, what we were saying that additional weighting was to be given to those groups in imminent need, and that is the key. One of the key factors, or the main factor that we discussed when we generated the guidance around this, and that we did set an expectation of around 2 or 3 awards being made, and that's why the amount was set at the amount it set. So it's just that framework.
That final decision was made at the town council, not at the top of, not at the
Yes.
F&GP.
Yeah, it's in the minutes here though, so it was taken
Yeah.
up as.
Fair enough. I'll just be pedantic
You
again.
will. You will, you will.
For a change.
When is the panel meeting?
It is the Monday, the 3rd of March. Yes, Monday, 3rd of March.
Do we know who's on that panel and how that panel have been selected?
Yes, they were selected at the council meeting, and it's myself, the mayor, Councillor Wiles, the chair of F&GP, Councillor Pennington, and Councillor Ripley. You're testing me, aren't you?
No, I'm not testing you, but it's just,
Yes, yes.
A good Sorry, is there a time?
Yes, it is 3:30. I have sent everybody an appointment.
3:30 on the 3rd of the 3rd.
And in fact, more members were actually asked to attend on the committee, weren't there? Originally, there was only, I believe, 3
That's correct, yeah.
members, and 2 additional
Yes,
members were asked to join,
yes,
that didn't have any influence within
yes.
town's events or anything like that. So it was to make it fairer.
Yeah, 5.
It was, of course, always going to be fair though, wasn't it?
Of course, it was indeed.
Okay, so with those discussions, are we happy to receive and approve the minutes?
Propose receiving minutes.
Seconder,
Happy to say.
all those in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you. 4 is public participation, a 20-minute session set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting. Are there any requests?
No request, Chair.
No requests. Thank you.
May I now suggest we conserve the heat and close the door?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want me to?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Jill, I can do it. I can do it. One of the few things I'm capable of doing.
Oh, maybe not.
I've got it kicking doors open.
Okay, next is item 5, payment schedules and finances, 5A, 5B, 5C, 5D and 5E, which are attachments 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D and 2E. So shall we take these in turn? Unless anyone wishes to take these as a block?
I would, unless somebody's got particular items to raise, I would take them on block.
Okay.
I have a couple of items to raise, which I have raised with the RFO for explanation.
Okay, well, let's go through them one by one and then vote on them as a block at the end.
Okay.
Okay. So, Councillor Bate?
Yeah, if we look at 2B, it was, there were 2 items, one for the walkie-talkies, 1487, and also 1497. I did ask the question, if we're spending this money to set up and set down, what really is our net margin on the market? Because we're putting in one set of the accounts, we've got all this revenue coming in, but we've actually got quite a bit of expenditure going out in 1497. I'm satisfied that I did get a proper answer from the RFO, but I do think we ought to be aware that what we think we are getting from the market is not what we're actually getting from the market. We've got to start taking sums off. And I assume that this contractor will be continuing for the foreseeable future.
Are you including the walkie-talkies in that?
No, I'm not doing the walkie-talkies are separate. That's the property manager
Yeah.
has got those, and they'll get work as far as the key toilets.
Yeah.
So, which is, I'm surprised we haven't had them before, but so I did raise that question, and again, I'd like to comment 1507, 8, 9. I'm glad to see that we're now saying what they are rather than just confidential, that salaries, pay, NI, and pension fund contributions. I'm glad that's much more open now.
So on the market issue, I guess at some point we'll have a report with the full costings.
yeah, I kind of raised this query with the RFO as well, to ask which budget the charges were going to. Were they going directly against the market, or were they going to one of the staff budgets? And she said they were going to be kind of an emergency staff budget. But that she was monitoring the profitability of the market, so yes, and we should get a proper report in due moment.
later on.
So my observations are that I think there's two aspects to this issue, in the sense that the merits of having a market within a small town and the impact that has for Thursdays and Saturdays is really important, and we shouldn't dismiss that. And therefore, I think we should be really supportive, and therefore we should look at ways in which we can help collectively and individually grow markets. There are all sorts of ways in which 16 councillors plus staff could influence its growth. So that's number one. But then the other layer is there is a cost attached to it that's going to impact the profitability. And that has to be very visible in terms of the accounting for this council, because if not, then we'll be quite adrift in terms of where we really are versus where we think we should be.
That was my point precisely. I think, suspect it's yours as well, Peter, that it's what's the net profit.
Yeah.
I mean, we know what the gross profit is, but it's
Yeah.
the net that we ought to be concerned about.
Yeah. And this
Just to
Yeah.
correct what I said earlier, this payment is from the staff contingency budget, not the emergency budget. But obviously, we are doing exercises to check income against expenditure to make sure there is a
Yeah.
profit. That's the response.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose my point is it's not just a pure profitability question. For that figure there, because I also raised a question with the RFO, I presume she had a script already ready. That relates to 9 sessions, so it takes it down to approximately £80 per market. So it's just the understanding the context, because it's a big number on there, but then you can dissect it down to the number of sessions of that. And the person who's doing it is really good. He really engages well with market stallholders, and he's really trustworthy. We haven't got that capability and capacity elsewhere in the staffing, or because I did it myself for a number of months at no cost. I ran out of my capacity and willingness to do it, so we have to find a solution.
And I'd like to add to that, I certainly won't be doing them again. I did do them for a number of months,
Yeah.
and it's a massive undertaking.
Yeah.
And I take my hats off to anyone who's prepared to get up that time in the morning, get out there, and
Yeah.
I think they're worth every single penny
Yeah.
myself, because I've done it myself.
Me too.
I mean, we have to remember we're in the first year or so of this revamped market.
Exactly.
It's not just about profit and loss, it's about, a focus and a hub for the town and bringing people in. And I think that's a key role for the town council to,
Oh, yeah.
get some life into the town. And hopefully it will grow and become profitable as time goes on.
Exactly.
So, Councillor Penny.
Thank you. I've noticed the weather is somewhat less favourable in the period under discussion.
Yeah.
So it was natural that numbers were maybe low, but I think if we're going to talk about the profitability of the market, it's a legitimate discussion, but I think firstly we need to do it over a year's operations, and secondly in terms of its impact and footfall in the town as well as just the market itself.
I think something I've been saying for a long time is that the council should produce a leaflet that we can deliver throughout the whole town, door to door.
Or a newsletter.
Or a newsletter. Yes, later. Just to try and advise people in the town, especially in the south side of the town, that this market's here, that we've got independent shops, that, please use the town centre and the markets, because they need your support.
Yeah.
It's becoming apparent to me this week that social media isn't always the best way to advertise such things, because you try and make serious announcements or publicity and it just gets lost in a sea of other stuff.
A sea of burgers.
Okay, so that's 2A. 2B, anything on that?
So that was 2B, I think.
That was 2B.
That was 2B,
Yeah.
So now we go on to
Please.
2C, anything on that arising? Bank account reconciled statements?
No.
Okay, anything on 2D, which is the financial statements, receipts and expenditure?
Yep, okay with that.
No. And 2E is the financial budget comparison. Any comments?
Been through it now.
Okay. So I propose that we take all of those on block. I'm happy to propose that.
I'll be happy to second that.
They're all to be received. All those in favour?
Thank you very much.
It's unanimous. Thank you. The next one is the item 6, priorities, terms of reference, status and action log for the Finance and General Purposes Committee. This is attachment 3, and it highlights the outstanding or completed items for this committee. I suppose the key ones to look at are the ones in red where we're in progress. Is there anything anyone wishes to raise on this log?
Yeah, just, yes.
Yeah, okay.
FG 0923.3 and FG 1023.3. This is around the benches on the butts and future maintenance position. Just to let committee know that I met with Christopher Easton, who's DDC corporate maintenance inspector yesterday, regards the town trail project in terms of the furniture, the assets along there. A warm response in terms of what the project I set up is about. He's taken away to discuss it with colleagues, and I'm hopeful he'll come back with some support, maybe some physical support in terms of tools that will be available. So, for example, if we were going to have an effort around benches, then things like barriers, etc., because there are elements that it's not about going out as a merry band and just targeting an asset without sensibly thinking it through. So against that action is just really to say there is progress now being made with DDC.
Okay, thank you. And the drill hall will have a report to the next meeting, presumably, on the rent review.
Yes.
Yeah. Anything else on this? You happy to accept it?
Can I just say, besides the action log, there's the terms of reference status for this committee.
Yeah.
So, Town Clerk, I hope that for the next meeting we could find some time beforehand to review that status and present it again at the next committee meeting.
That won't be possible. I won't actually be here. I'll be on leave. But when I get back in April, obviously that's
Okay.
something we can pick up there.
Don't forget about it.
Thank you.
Something I did want to raise about this action log was there's quite a lot of pressure on the property manager,
Yeah.
and he's already undertaking quite a large workload. So I think we should consider, his position, so that although we've got quite a large number of tasks for him to undertake, that there is some sort of priority order that are given to these. So with not only with this action log, but obviously there's been interim works as well that he's had to undertake to address certain things. So I was perhaps more asking the town clerk if we could perhaps in your reviews with the property manager just make sure that he's not under too much pressure or stress.
Yeah, of
from
course.
his undertaking. Thank you.
And I just wonder, Chair, if maybe we could draw out the property manager's actions, because actually they just sit amongst a lot of others, and then maybe we, rather than put an extra demand on him to prioritise, maybe we could come up with our priority list in here to try and help say this is the tier 1 stuff.
Exactly.
From our perspective.
Exactly.
It's a very valid point.
Indeed, and I've been to a number of meetings recently, and he's attended all the 3 meetings that I've been at. So he's preparing reports for meetings. He's actually attending meetings physically. He's got this action list, and he's got a day-to-day operational remit for this guild hall and the auxiliary staff. So I think we need to, as I say, get the actions isolated for the property manager and prioritise them so that he can see a pattern to work through,
Yeah.
and he's not under too much pressure, please.
Yeah.
I think what I would like to see at this committee and at Tollbridge Finance Committee is a report to each meeting just with a summary of the assets, where we are, because we're so interested and keen to sort out the assets. I think it would be good for him to report to each meeting, even if nothing's been done, but just to say where we are with each asset as we go along.
Yeah, I think that might be a bit much at the moment with capacity
Yeah.
levels, but I think
Once
that
his feet are under the
we're,
table.
we're working towards that, certainly.
Could I just add an action, because I did prepare a paper on opening interest-bearing accounts.
Oh, yeah.
I would like it to go onto the action log and to go forward to this committee and to the full council, because I noticed on the cash reconciliation statement, our opening balance account was 563,000. Our closing balance account was 568,000. We should be earning interest on this one.
Just to let you know, Councillor Breen, the RFO has started work on that initiative, so she is actually going behind the scenes. It will be very tricky because there are certain banks that won't open up accounts for local councils, but she's starting making all the research, so it is in progress.
Well, on the paper I submitted, I have researched it, and the NatWest Bank, who are our current bankers, have a range of interest-bearing accounts, and I would have thought it was very simple for us to open accounts with our current bankers and just move the money around.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll feed that back to you. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how that impacts on the £85,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly. If we have it in different accounts as opposed to all in one account,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're in a much more financially
Yeah.
secure position, which was one of the points that the auditor raised when we
Yeah.
looked at our bank.
Yeah, I'll feed that back to the RFO. Thank you.
So can we add that in as an item in the action log?
Yep.
Just to say, there are a number of purely online banking organisations now that do pay considerably more than the big banks. But it is done entirely online, and they can afford to pay greater interest precisely because they haven't got any bricks and mortar. But again, you've got to obviously do the due diligence on them.
Of course.
I would have thought for the 85k, I thought that's for a banking, within one banking license. So spreading it around NatWest, I don't think is going to protect you.
No.
The 85k
It's
will only it's $1 lakh per license.
Per
Yeah,
bank.
Per
bank.
Per bank. And
Yeah.
I think like NatWest will have a whole number of subsidiaries, and this is on the one banking license.
If it is, then it's 85k. full
It
stop.
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not so sure.
That's why I think the RFO has been looking at alternatives, because if you, as you say, if you have it all in the same bank in different accounts, I don't think that actually protects you any further than the £85,000. But yeah, so it's very tricky because obviously as well, she has to look at whether accounts, you're locking in for certain periods of time, and because there are the practicalities of having to move money around, and she's already juggling quite a few bank accounts. So we have to realise as well the impact on the RFO's workload with, having additional bank accounts and trying to ensure that everybody, there's enough money in each account whenever we're, with our operational expenditure.
Yeah, I understand
Thank you.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
Just one final point on the third action down, FGP 01245. I don't really want to necessarily get into the deep detail around what's been happening the past few days on Fellowship Walk, but I wanted to ask whether we are going to convene a discussion within the council somehow, somewhere, because from what I can see, and I could be completely wrong, it suggests to me there's been a claim of that piece of land already in terms of it. Ostensibly, it could be a case of it's just been tidied up for everybody's benefit, but it's not how I viewed it today. But I could be wrong, and I don't want to cast aspersions, but there's definitely a big issue that's caused a lot of concern in the town this week.
I agree. I went past there today and it's not looking good.
I can raise just some light on that from one side of the argument is I've spoken to the actual developer who owns the land twice, and he has guaranteed to me, I don't know how strong that is, that the land is being tidied up. And he said that apparently the work that his men are doing are building a bank and preparing it for public use. And his actual words were, he said, did the council want him to put a bench on the site so that when the public are using the land, they can actually sit down and appreciate the land?
I don't think we should have any discussions or negotiations at this stage.
No, this wasn't, I hasten to add, this wasn't a negotiation. He phoned me up because he'd had a number of complaints.
Yeah.
And he phoned me up just to try and put over his side of the story of what he's doing. So, but currently myself and the town clerk are in communication with Dover District Council on the matter.
Yeah.
And both the Dover District Councillors also engaged on it as well.
So I think when we get more information, we should have a discussion as
Yeah,
well.
we
What I
should.
don't want us to do is go down a very emotional route on this. It's better that we know some of the facts around this.
Exactly.
It's one of the key concerns within the town, so
It is.
keeping on the boil. Okay, so you're happy to accept this action log?
Yep.
I propose that.
Second.
All those in favour? So the next item is item 7, the mayor's seat cushion and kneeling pad replacement. This is a request for these items within St Clement's Church that the mayor uses to be refurbished and or replaced. And a decision is required. The mayor's not going to take part in the
Voting.
he will take part in the discussion.
I can
So-
just give you an overview about this.
Yeah, do you wish to talk on this?
Yeah, so apparently these items were purchased by the previous mayor 27 years ago, and I've just been realising how sort of threadbare and poor they are, and having visited both Faversham and New Romney, I saw that they actually had replaced theirs and they had newer ones, and I said, oh, that's really nice, that's how things should be done. So I made some inquiries into the matter, and quite nicely the church warden said that they would do some cost-effective research, which they did, to try and look into these items. And for instance, the actual kneeling pad has got the interior materials inside showing through. So the stuffing or whatever it is that's inside, I think it's horsehair actually, it's so old, is actually showing through. So these are items that if I don't replace them, a future mayor will have to replace them. They're looking very, very, very poor condition. And unfortunately, this has just fallen during my term. It's just something that needs replacing. And it's a bit like in future terms of office, I can tell you the mayor's robes will need replacing, and they will be sort of double to triple what we're paying for this. So every so often there are certain items of mayoral expenditure that needs to be updated, and 27 years has been a very good term of office for these two items here, and obviously it would be preferable to get them replaced. So I believe from the mayoral budget there's plenty of allowance to pay for these and still have some money over. And I've been actually assessing my budgets as I've gone through the mayoral year, and currently I will be quite largely underspent once again this year as to the previous years. So I have been keeping an eye on things, making sure I'm doing things properly. So, but when I did take this to the RFO, she said because it's what's termed an exceptional cost, it had to come to this committee to decide on. So I'll hand it over
All
to.
sounds reasonable. Any comments on this? Councillor Pennington?
Yeah, it sounds to be quite reasonable. If it's worn, it's obviously been used. It needs to be used. I was quite surprised at the cost estimates. I had imagined it might be more than that, but it seems to me, firstly, a reasonable expense, and secondly, a reasonable price.
Any other comments? So,
I believe these two items are made locally, but actually in the church.
Yeah.
That's why it's quite.
it's local craftsmen.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay, I'm happy to propose that this is approved. Do we have a second?
Councillor Pennington.
All those in favour?
Thank you. Yep.
Could you just note that I'm abstaining?
Yeah, fine, abstain. Yeah, thank you.
Next is item 8, Fishergate. This is to receive a very comprehensive report from the property manager with an update on Fishergate. I think it's worth noting that we've had a couple of meetings with the Heritage Harbour Trust. We are supportive of their desire to find alternative or suitable premises around the quay or elsewhere for their purposes. But the thrust of this report is that this is the only scheduled monument building in Sandwich. It's a very, very important building. We can't do a great deal with it without permission. The property manager is recommending that the best use is as a holiday let for limited 2-3 day stays at a time, and that this would bring in a certain amount of income which other uses wouldn't do, and it would also, it appears, be supported by Historic England in terms of the building and its use. We have to find some use for this, so this is the recommendation that's being made. So are there any comments on this report? Start with Councillor Pennington.
Yes, thank you. The property manager very kindly met me down there at Fishergate today, and I was able to have a look around because I haven't seen inside it before. It is clear it needs a lot of work, firstly. Secondly, I think whatever decisions are taken, the cladding and so on inside it will need to be stripped back. I said to him, my heart is in making it a museum, but my head hasn't made its mind up yet. And, I'm not sure that now's the right time to decide, actually. I wonder if we shouldn't, with Historic England, do a bit more work on it and then decide what is the best use of it. Thank you.
Okay.
So I think in terms of our whole portfolio of assets, this is, for me, the number one asset we should retain. But what comes with that is the fact that we have a significant investment to make in terms of bringing it up at least to a safe standard. But whatever use, be it museum, be it other purposes, or be it as a holiday let, the costs are fairly similar. So I'd like to first of all thank the property manager for the report itself. It's very comprehensive and very well presented. Yeah. So for me, the only choice forward is to look at a way, if we're going to invest a significant amount of money, it has to bring an income, because we're not a council that is able to invest potentially £90,000 into a building without looking at how do we recoup that money over time. So for me, I'm more than happy to support the choice that's put forward. The only thing I was going to suggest is that we, moving forward, and it sort of some ways picks up what Martin's saying, I think we have to do it very sensibly and very slowly, and I think we should have key stages along the way to review the progress and make sure that we make the right decisions appropriately, because the risk is that we say we're going to commit £90,000 and then actually the potential for income isn't realised. So I don't want us to jump in and say that's where we're going to go, and therefore there's 90,000 allotted to it. We have to do it in a very measured and staged way.
Councillor
Thank you. Of course, the major obstacle on this particular asset is the stairs and the doorways, so the access to it. And if we, in our discussions with the Heritage Harbour Trust, obviously this was an idea that they had to make it a maritime harbour museum, and of course the problem is make it DDA compliant. So if you make it a public building for visitors to come and go, you've got to in some way try and make it DDA compliant. Now, if we do make it a holiday let, we can actually put in a caveat into it so that anybody that hires the place are aware before they hire it that it isn't DDA compliant. So the most important factor about this is it's an ancient monument. We can't change or alter the stairs. We can't put in like a lift or even a stair lift. We can't even put a stair lift in there. So whatever you do with it, that is, I would say, is the major factor that you've got to consider. And from my point of view, if you made it somewhere that had a large number of people there, more than say a family of 4 or 5, if you had it as a museum and you had 20 or 30 people there, I would have concerns about fire safety and access up the stone staircase. And one thing I don't want to see is this council, being at the wrong end of legal cases to do with accidents or anything like that. So whether it's a holiday let or not, I think we've got to realise, the issues that are curtailing the use of that building and put it to the use that it can be done for, which can be legally and sound. So,
Councillor Black.
Yes, well, someone said earlier, it seems any option seems to be like 95,000, regardless of what you do. The DDA compliance is a huge problem. I think that does effectively rule out any kind of public use, be it an office or a museum, unfortunately. The holiday rent, the figures seemed a bit low to me. I don't know what benchmarking he's been able to do. In other words, the income, I appreciate maybe 3 or 4 days. And to say that we have an income of between 10 and 12k, again, we're at the gross versus the net, because we will still have cleaning costs, we'll have admin costs and so on. So I am a bit concerned that we're always talking gross margin, not net margin. The only thing that counts is net margin. So I'd query this a little bit. I'm not saying don't do it, but I'd be a bit more conservative in the income. Again, I'd like to see a bit of benchmarking data as to what 3 to 4 day lets in a town like this are actually bringing in. I don't know quite how we get the information, but I think those are my concerns. And you'd need some very careful explanation in the marketing. The stairs are always going to be a problem because they're so tight, and the fact that it is not DDA compliant. But I think you've got to say a little bit more than that. I've been in some interesting places in my time. If you know about it, that's one thing. If you don't, you could have a set of complaints.
Absolutely. You'd have to be absolutely upfront with bookings about the accessibility issue, because it is tight, and it's not everyone's cup of tea, really. I think I agree about the proposed figures there, because it maybe wonder, does this include laundry and sheets and towels and everything?
It does.
And I mean, Julian is saying that the council could do all of this and manage it. And I mean, obviously there's then the bookings and the marketing and everything, which is a slightly different kettle of fish. So I think an alternative would be to just give it to an agent who manages Airbnbs, for example, and say, we want these days or weeks blocks out through the year. The rest of it you can manage as you wish, and we pay you a fee. So that's another option. But yeah, I think a bit more work probably has to be done on that.
I think I've got a bit of a different view, really. It's an ancient monument, the only one that the council own. And I think we have a responsibility to maintain the integrity of the building. And that's the external stonework, the pointing, the roof, keeping it dry and ventilated and so forth. And in order to do that, because it's an ancient monument, I think we should be seeking out funding opportunities to pay for that. And I think that is the responsibility of this council. I think going into a letting business, you see the state of it because it was previously let out and it's in a terrible state. I don't think it's the thing for the council to be letting out Airbnb rentals and so forth and competing with local residents and so forth. So I'm against it being let out, and I'm against it being used as an office, because I think that the rents won't necessarily kind of pay for it. So personally, I think we should seek funding to do it up. If we can't get the funding to do it up, I think Canterbury have disposed of similar type buildings, and we should seriously consider that.
Yeah, one of our councillors bought.
Yeah, exactly. But what's really interesting, that's being done up to be a whole delete.
Fine, but it's been bought by a private individual to do up as a
So
holiday let.
we've got a discussion we must still have around this. Obviously, there are different views across the table.
I mean, I think this is floating the three options.
Mm-hmm.
The fourth option is that we sell it, which probably it doesn't have a great market value because it's such a protected building. But I think that is not an option I would support.
No.
Because I think it's a part of the absolute heritage of the town that we have to look after.
I think if we were going to sell it, we need to put the external envelope in proper order before it is sold.
Well, my feeling after visiting it was that the first thing to do was to strip back all the various cladding, plasterboard and everything that's been put up, see what it looks like, and then decide which way you want to take it, because the historic value is very, very important, both to the town and in terms of its future use. I share a lot of what Councillor Green has been saying.
But it's
I
how
think we
long
should be
is
very careful with this. We really, although these are estimates of what it might cost to do it up, we really don't have much idea because so much is hidden.
Councillor.
I agree very much with what Councillor Green said. I think maybe another way, possibly, might be pie in the sky looking at it, is Sandwich Council has a number in the Tollbridge, a number of properties. So rather than looking at an individual property cost and income, kind of looking at the portfolio as a whole in terms of when that's complete, where we are in the financial position with all of the properties. Because I think it would be it's the only original gate of Sandwich that's left, and I think it would be horrific to squander it in any way without actually exploring every option.
Yeah. Can I just check, has everyone in this room been in the building?
No,
Yeah.
sorry.
Okay. I mean, clearly the funding is an issue. The proposed income would generate a certain mortgage, but not enough to do the work. So there are funds available for buildings of this kind through National Lottery and other grant funding bodies. So I think that has to be an option on the table, that we go forward and explore those options. But I think what we've been asked to do today is accept the principle of A, retaining the building, and B, going down the holiday let route rather than the museum and the office route. Personally, I'm against either of those second two options because of the disability access. It's simply not accessible, and either option would not generate any income for the council. So,
Just to add, I'm not sure if everybody's aware, but probably the mayor is, there has been heritage funding used on this property previously, I think twice. So I think the discussion that the property manager's been having with people in the know is that might go against other funding applications because it's already had money spent. I'm not saying that rules it out, but that is a consideration as well to think about.
Yeah, I actually looked up, it received funding in the past. Was it from the Coopers of the boilers? There's a plaque outside that says that this was us.
Yes, yeah.
I went straight onto their website to see if we could get any money off them, but they don't give out. It's very London centric, and they don't give out grants for the refurbishment of buildings.
And also, Mr. Chairman, we mustn't overlook that English Heritage have actually undertaken similar actions that we're taking. So on a large number of properties, Walmer Castle, Dover Castle, Caerphilly Castle, there's a large number. English Heritage have, in order to promote their assets and bring in additional income, they've taken holiday lets, gone down the holiday let route. So for such a large organisation like that, and it's worked very well.
yeah.
It's becoming a regularly used.
I mean, the Pugin House in Ramsgate is a landmark trust property, similar in respect of winding staircases up to the tower. Not quite so difficult to access, but that's used as a holiday let, and they block out times during the year, the Heritage Open weekends, when the public can visit, and that's what's being proposed here. I mean, my view is that the property's been empty a long, long time.
Yeah.
We cannot allow it to carry on being empty indefinitely. Yeah. So we have to start making clear decisions about this.
Yeah.
And my recommendation would be that we pursue the holiday let proposal, that we ask the property manager or the town clerk or any of us to explore possible funding options. We do some more work on the potential income and costs and booking arrangements, etc., and that we make that recommendation to council next week.
Well, I think the order that you've put it is not something that I would support. I think the first thing is that we need to seek funding to restore the fabric and everything, because as Councillor Pennington is saying, until we know how much energy is this place going to cost, to keep it heated and to look after it, the operational issues of letting it out for a buy-to-let or an Airbnb, the insurance issues around potential claims and so forth. So I think our first port of call has got to be to seek funding to understand exactly to repair the fabric of the building, and then decide from there.
Yes, funding definitely is something that needs to be investigated, but should we find that it's a difficult path to travel, we have an issue. Back to my point I said right at the start is there is a significant amount of investment needed in the building regardless of however it's used. And from my perspective, in terms of looking at it from a council perspective, I'd be saying we need to find some way to find a income stream that somehow meets that expenditure. Whereas we don't have that sort of money available at the moment unless we make a sacrifice somewhere else. Just my personal view.
Maddox or Torbridge Front, Some Carlton.
I was just going to say, I believe apart from any external works, I believe what the property manager has put in his report are the costs to bring it into service on one of the free options.
Yeah.
So I think for this report, what we should be considering is the options that the property managers put forward.
I think for us to take forward to full council implies that we're in broad agreement. Well, I'm not sure that we really are at this stage. I think that we do need to take something forward to council that says funding issues have to be explored. There's no question about that. We would find it difficult to fund it ourselves, so they need to be explored. Then it's only when you know how much you're going to be liable for can you really start to look at the income options. I think there is only one income option, I'm afraid, which is precisely that it's holiday lets. I don't see any of the others will generate income. But I do think we need to be very clear, what are we letting ourselves in for? And that would be my recommendation now, for the motion, which says that we take this to the council with a recommendation that we explore the funding first before we make too strong a commitment.
Chair, I think that takes me back to what I said at the start, is we have to do in very small chunks in terms of the staging of this, so we're making the right decisions at the right time. What we shouldn't be doing is saying that's what we're going to end up with. We should say this is a path we might want to go down, but there's going to be a number of review points for different reasons.
It seems to me, if you look at the options to do it up, the stone windows, £10,000, plus the work underneath the arch. There's a number of items here which are really all about sorting out the actual fabric of the building. And that's one thing to look at the cost of that, which might only be £25,000. I'm not saying it is, I'm just saying it should be hopefully significantly less, and it all depends on the extent of the restoration too, because there's feature stonework outside that's badly corroded and and suffered a lot of erosion. That you can't really see. Are we going to repair that? Because this is my concern. As soon as you get into it with kind of the regulatory bodies, they'll have us doing all of this stonework, and the 100,000 budget will become £250,000.
Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, one comparison you can make, it's very difficult because you've only got my word for it, but when this council took on another asset, namely the drill hall, and after the purchase we went down to see the drill hall, the condition the drill hall was in, I would have said exactly what Councillor Breen was saying. I would have said, if you're going to tell me this is going to be a pizza restaurant within a matter of months, I won't believe you. And yet that is what happened. That is what happened. So when we bought the drill hall, it was a dusty, dirty, musky type area. And when we went in there, we went, gosh, this is going to take years to get this into some sort of business. And yet it was literally a matter of months, and the drill hall was transformed into a pizza parlour. And I must say this, it's very difficult for all the members of the committee here to believe, but literally when we all saw it, we thought this is just not going to happen. It's just not
500 years between the two buildings.
Indeed there are, but it's a similar scenario. I think it's a similar scenario.
So about I estimate around £20,000 of that PC sum is down to external, making the place wind and weather tight, stonework, windows, etc. I think the roof is in fairly good condition. Councillor Carter, could I just ask you, as a long-standing councillor, what's the history of our ownership of this building?
It's one of the it's a bit of a dark area, but obviously it's only known that it came across to Sandwich Town Council in 1974, when of course the borough owned it, but of course the agreement was that Sandwich Town Council could retain a certain number of the assets that they had. So my knowledge only goes back as far as 1974 and the borough to district agreement, I'm afraid. But prior to that, obviously, as far as I know from a history point of view, it's where certain statutory offices used to work out of there, and one of them was the weights and measures for on the quayside, and the weights and measures was overseen through the borough council. So it's always had a council operation from that building.
So over the last 50 years, it's had use as an office, as a flat.
Oh, indeed.
for
Yeah,
the harbour
sorry. So
master.
over the last few years, yeah, as office flat. I did hear that many years ago, one of the town sergeants used to reside there. So,
But I think that the fact that all of this work has been done without proper control
indeed,
highlights for me the kind of mess that we're trying to put right with this
Rectify.
management of assets.
And let's not forget that this is only one of a number of assets that need similar investments to make them safe and secure. So it all multiplies and grows very quickly to a very large amount of commitment that this council will be expected to make for assets that are at risk.
So if I can sum up, the property manager is asking us to consider the holiday let option. I think
We should consider.
quite a few members are feeling that that's a premature decision to make at this stage, and that we need to explore the funding options for bringing the building itself, the fabric of the building, up to a really good standard, whether that's through Historic England or Lottery or other grant funders. I mean, beyond that, if we ask the property managers to go away and do that and report back to the next meeting, hopefully, or the one after, I don't think we can just let this drift. It has to be, we have to keep on it. But if that's the first decision that we take, is the committee minded to say that the holiday let route is the route we should go down?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we do have to make a decision on what its use is going to be before we even go for funding, because otherwise we wouldn't know how much funding we'd need. So if we were just going to improve the interior and exterior to take it back to what it was before, but not have a use for it, we wouldn't have that much cost for it. So if we know what use it's going to be, as the property manager has highlighted, we know how much expenditure is going to be needed. So until we know the use of it, we can't really determine.
All three options are more or less the same.
I was going to make that point. It seems to be whatever use, we're seeing the best part of nearly 100k disappearing into this. But I think that the only issue about not being certain about the use is whether some funders might say, well, what are you going to do with it?
They will.
Exactly.
So what, may I make the suggestion, we take to the council that we need to explore funding issues. At the moment, the best option to start to reimburse part of the cost is a holiday let. But we will not make a definite decision about that until because we've got some questions about whether these figures are realistic. But you could take that by all means, I think, to the council. But say you really, to make a final decision, you're way off that at the moment. There's a lot of work. And I take your point, the moment you start working on stonework, you find some other bit has rotted away, something else is so eroded, you need to completely replace and stonework, and then goodness knows what the woodwork's like.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're going to get funding for fitting it out as a holiday let. You will get funding for repairing the fabric of the building.
Yeah.
The two are separate, aren't they?
Can I just point out though, Mr. Chairman, that, the property manager, apart from being a professional person himself, and I've got 100% confidence in him, he engaged a chartered architects to draw up this report and to get the costings, to base the costings on. So I think we're going into the minuscule when really we should be looking. We're trying to find a macro answer to this. Have we got a use for it, and can we take that use forward to get some funding to undertake that? So what we're looking for is a macro answer. We're not looking for a minuscule answer. With all due respect to Councillor Pennington, we do need to take the panelling off to see what's behind there and if there's any rot or if there's any problems like that. But we need to have a macro answer to this report. Because if not, if you're not happy with it, let's dismiss it immediately. Let's dismiss the report and get on to the next item.
I just want to go back to my point and make a further point about looking at the portfolio as a whole. I think, yes, there are a number of properties, and I accept that, but they're not all of equal value, historically or otherwise. And maybe we need to look in terms of, you know, what's most important than a more later building that could maybe be sold, potentially, is because we're looking at these buildings one by one, but then that would provide a potential income for restoring something if we decided it was a special case, which I believe it is, because it's a historical monument and it was the only remaining case of damage.
That's correct.
One of the key things in the business plan, which we'll talk about later, is to develop a proper asset management strategy so that we can make decisions about, do we keep this property, do we sell it and use the proceeds to do up Fishergate, etc. So that's the kind of work we
But if
need to
we're
do.
making decisions individually, then we don't know the whole yet, so maybe we're not in a position to make that decision.
So as someone said earlier, Fishergate is probably the most important property we do own, and so therefore we have to treat that as the highest priority. So do we have a proposal on this?
I would like to put a proposal forward. I've sat here for 18 years and I've probably had 4 or 5 similar discussions about Fishgate over 18 years. And guess where I am now? I'm still looking at an empty building that has got no purpose or no use, and it's still there 18 years later. This is going to be our best opportunity to take anything forward. If we don't make a decision tonight, then it will reflect poorly upon members of this committee. So I'm happy to propose that we go forward. We thank the property manager for the research he's done. We thank him for engaging chartered architects to give an idea of costing and options. And we say that we would like to consider option B on the proposal that funding can be researched and brought forward, to take that forward as soon as possible. That's my proposal, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I think I would put forward a similar proposal, which is that we go down the holiday let route, subject to funding being found for the external fabric of the building, subject to further work on the letting income. And clearly all we're doing is making a recommendation to council. That's council that will make this decision.
That's all we're doing.
On Monday and at a subsequent meeting.
It won't be Monday. It will be the
Isn't it
March
on the
meeting.
agenda?
No,
It's not on the agenda.
No,
Okay,
no.
So at the March meeting then?
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the case, then does that not then give us more time to explore some of these
Limited.
options?
It does give some time, yes.
So could you repeat just what?
We've got we've got
Yeah.
the mayor's proposal
Well,
first,
well, I
so
think-
we have to.
I think the chairman's proposal was similar to mine in that we've got a recommendation. The recommendation is choosing one of these options or choosing none of them. So that is also the option here. So I don't want to bully anybody into anything. If the majority of this committee say, no, we're not happy with this, you can all vote against my proposal and say, no, we're not happy, we want a different proposal where the funding comes first. And you can put that forward. But for 18 years of seeing that property sit in the condition it's in, I'm desperate to make sure that I can hand that building on to my grandchildren.
Yeah.
So my proposal stands that we choose option B with a requirement
Subject to.
subject to the funding for the internal and external to bring it up to a condition that would be suitable for that to go ahead.
and to do more work on the letting income and
Yes.
the expenditure and booking marketing arrangements.
Yep.
But if we don't choose an option, we can't get any actions.
And can I just clarify, it is exploring that option, because if you read the report, that's what it is, exploring.
Yes.
It's not making a council commitment
No.
to it being a holiday let. So just to make sure that that's clearly
Indeed.
understood, what we're saying is that's a path we want to start
That is the path
exploring.
we want to go towards.
So the holiday let path is the one we want to pursue, subject to all those caveats.
Yeah.
And do more work on it. Town clerk, would it be the full council that makes this decision ultimately?
Yes, it will.
The future
It
Will have
Yes.
to because
Yes.
So we're making that recommendation
Yes.
to the full council, and hopefully at that next meeting, we can have a few more answers about some of those issues.
Exactly, yeah.
So
So
you're making
that's
that
my
proposal.
proposal.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I'm happy with
All those in favour of that?
One against,
So
I'm going to abstain.
abstain, one against, one abstain. Yes,
that's carried.
thank you.
So hopefully Julian can do some work on that. Thank you for that. It's a difficult one.
Yeah.
Really.
Could I just very quickly say, associated, it just triggered a thought in my head about marketing, because it was mentioned in the report about the capability within the town staff resource to be able to market. I just wanted to flag up, it's maybe something for this committee to look at, is how do we market this building? We only released this week on social media was a video by your events group, and for using this premises. Really good video. I think we have to be stepping up in the next year how we market this premises, because this is in itself represents its own issues.
Sure.
So I think we need to look at it in this committee
Yeah.
as how we might take that forward.
Next item.
Sorry, could I just finally say, I did a lot of work on estimating projects at a very early stage, and I've never ever put a project forward with this level of knowledge without a contingency fund. There's no contingency fund in this estimate, and I think the architects who've done this have actually fallen short in not doing so.
That could be noted by the town clerk.
That's a good point.
The figures are from the property manager. I think he makes it clear that they're provisional sums.
There's no contingency.
And Historic England make it clear that they need to see what's behind the woodwork and so on. Okay, let's move on. Item 9, proposed renewal of council house subscription for STC. Decision is required. This looked like a reasonable use of funds.
Thank you. Yes, just to obviously put some context to this, in 12-month period there was 11 contacts with the service. The number of FOI requests and complexities with some of the data subject access requests did result in multiple email exchanges per contact. So it wasn't just one email, it was a number of emails per contact. Also, there is some training that's going to be added to the service that councillors will have access to this year. So this will mean that we will have less expenditure for any training via Calc and NELC. Thank you.
Any comments?
Yeah, I was going to ask the main use of this year has been for council staff. Is that right?
This year has been
For council staff.
so
Councillors have not had access to this.
yes. So myself predominantly, but also the assistant clerk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why in
Yeah.
council staff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's going to be expanded slightly, that councillors may be able to use it.
Just-
Mind you, we haven't spent a lot of money on councillor training, have we? About £150.
So basically, the training opportunities will be extended to councillors this year. So,
Right.
so it's been available for officers this coming year. It will be available for councillors. So I think there's a real opportunity for a lot more engagement with training, and obviously it's in everybody's interest, because better trained councillors means better for the community, and obviously it will benefit the community long term. So For me, that was, I think a really good opportunity to.
Yeah. It was just trying to clarify just who had access to this.
Yes.
It's very helpful that you've said that there will be better access for councillors, because some of it looked as if it was very much in that sphere. Whether it replaces Calcutta now, well, that's another matter.
But it will only be the training, so you won't have access to the service.
We shouldn't require it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to very quickly say I'd like to propose that we do accept this, but let's not forget this was the reason we took this on board was because we had a spike of an amount of FOIs that had a certain level of value to them, which I'm not going to really comment on, but
They were malicious.
we should accept that it works out roughly £200 per engagement. I think that's reasonable when using external companies, but I think we have to be also very mindful of reviewing the value for this coming year at the end of the year. So I think we should, and I'd like to propose that we do support this request.
I just wanted to, because I didn't realise the small number of engagements we had, so it's £181 per engagement.
Yep.
The only thing that I would like to say, because I'm very, as Councillor Chuka said, we picked this company up originally because of a major issue, and we haven't done any sort of cost effectiveness or comparisons. So anything that I would have liked to have seen was at least one or two comparisons from like-minded companies, because otherwise I don't know whether that £2,000, I don't know if that is that the cheapest of or the highest of the range. I don't know.
So this company are bespoke and are used by NALC and CALC predominantly for their training. So I wouldn't know of another council-driven, focused. Because some of these have been parish councils themselves, so they set up the business because they saw obviously a gap in the market. So it isn't something that I've seen anywhere else. I'm sorry to say that.
I'm only questioning because obviously, with everything we do here in the council, we're spending public money, and so it's just nice to have a comparison to what we use.
So we have a proposal that this is subscription is agreed. I'll second that. This will be reviewed again in a year's time.
Yep.
So all those in favour?
Thank you. Two abstained. Yeah.
Thank you. Item 10 is update on the draft business plan.
Yes.
So Councillor Shuker, the town clerk, and I were delegated by this committee to work on a business plan for the remaining 2 years of this administration. We have done some work on that, and we have more or less a final draft, and I'm proposing that be sent around to all councillors next week with a view to, subject to any comments, that we bring that into the next committee cycle. So the big theme of it is really partnership working and trying to do more with groups around the town and to do more that's actually visible in the town, so that we can show, we spent 2 years trying to sort things out internally, and now we're trying to move a bit more externally.
I look forward to seeing that.
Okay. So any comments on that? So if not, I'll move on. 11 is an insurance claim. We've had a report about this. I propose that we don't spend any time discussing this and just note it, unless anyone wishes to discuss the matter.
I propose we
Second,
So we note and move on. Thank you. Number 12 is financial regulations. This is a new template from NALC, which the RFO has submitted to us, based on some of the recommendations from the auditor. The key things to note within this is the changes in 1.7, 5.15, 5.18 and 6.7, which give the town clerks different levels of delegation to deal with various matters. Town clerk, did you want to say anything on this at all?
Thank you, Chair. So what I'm hoping is that we can move forward this year with a bit more delegation to officers with the expenditure, the levels, but also looking for some more delegation to the Finance and General Purposes Committee, because I think with what you'll see with your full council pack is I'm proposing that we meet bi-monthly for full council for next year. So that would mean that we will need a bit more financial expansion for delegation to allow that to happen, because obviously what we don't want is, you know, a lot of decisions stacking up for every 2 months. So this would be one way of actually hopefully supporting that progress. And that's obviously, I brought that to committee for your comments and whether you think that's you know, an appropriate approach.
I do. So, I think that's very sound advice, Mr. Chairman. So I propose that we accept the.
So this is the NALC, they're all marked draft in the report. That they've been the draft, they're the model financial regs, but they've been tweaked and edited by the RFO to highlight the specific circumstances of this council. So are there any other comments?
Yeah, I mean, okay, 15 pages for a parish council seems a hell of a lot, but that's the what we have to deal with. I've got a couple of questions here. If we look at budget and precept 4.2, I think the HR committee really needs to get a handle on this, which I don't think they have done in the past. And our present arrangement is about 3.4 of it vague. I'm not sure about 4.4 because I think some things have been rolled over from 1 year to the next. Now, is this a significant change?
So there is capacity for something that isn't, you know, using the year's budget. People can ask for that money, which Councillor Ungerson has done previously for her project. So I think you'll find that that still allows for this, so that there is a mechanism if somebody wanted something that's earmarked and they haven't spent it, and you know they have. But the idea is what we did this year. We adopted that template everybody did for the budget setting. The idea being that even if you've had something in the budget for the previous year, it's not going to automatically be carried forward. It's something that, you know, the council need to decide.
Because the highway improvement plan is another one that bits and pieces rolled over.
Yes, yes. Because
So I think, you know, we have to be aware of the implications of this.
Yeah.
That it's going to be require a much more careful thought.
Yeah.
In the budget setting than perhaps has been necessary in the past because you had the facility to roll things over. There were a couple of others. Yeah, 4.8. How are we going to know a council hasn't paid his council tax or her council tax?
You have to declare.
so yes,
Yeah.
you would.
Well, how would you know that they weren't declaring it? I mean, it's for a parish council, it's a bit daft. Like for a district council or a rate-setting council, fine, but it does seem a bit excessive for a council like ours who don't have that power. I like 5.14 that we don't, and it's very good that we can say to people we're not obliged to accept the lowest tender. And I think that's a very important statement that we need to make. I think I'm almost at the end. Yes, could I understand what 7.14 is? Remembered password facilities. What on earth is a remembered password facility?
So you know how you can actually ask the system to remember.
That's what you call by remembered password.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Right. So you're not supposed to use it.
No, not for the back council banking. That's
So
very
you
important.
just stick a post-it note on the side of the screen instead, do we?
No. You have to memorise. You have to
You
memorise.
don't save passwords.
Exactly. You don't save the password.
And right, the 12.2 is, I'm not sure if we need this for contingency funding. I didn't quite understand 12.2.
Sorry, 12.2 council back, did you say?
Yeah, 12.2.
12.2. Infrastructure does not require.
again, this seems to be
Yeah.
fine for large authorities,
Yeah.
you know, district and county, and so very understandable. But for a parish,
These are all what the NAP template, and this is all local councils. These are not written for district councils. These are written for local councils. And I think it just depends on obviously the level of budgets and everything you're dealing with. And, you know, you don't know in the future, this
Yeah.
might be implicated here. So I think
we
it's,
have an empire.
but, you know, you do have a large portfolio of properties and, you know, investments. So I think, you know, it's important to have these recommended,
Okay.
pieces in here. I wouldn't recommend, you know, taking any out, because even if they're not appropriate at the moment, they may well be.
Okay. I think my last one is 16.1. Given what the council inherited and what in particular the officers inherited, are we in a position to say that we can match 16.1 about custody of title deeds, land register certificates and everything else? Because we certainly found gaps when we started to look, and I know the property manager has found things. Is this giving you the commitment that something that we are currently would find it very difficult to prove that we have these?
So basically, this is saying that the ones that we have, we are committing to having safe custody of them. So in other words, they're kept in the archives under lock and key and kept very, you know, securely. But it's not. It doesn't mean that you have all of the title deeds for every property. But obviously, that's something the property manager is working on at the moment.
I've read it slightly differently, that this implies that we have all title deeds.
No, it means that any that you have
That we
are safe.
we hold.
Exactly.
Right.
Some are missing.
I think I'll shut up now.
Good.
I think, Mr. Chairman, the Councillor Black has made some very good points there, and with regards to these, and obviously these perhaps may not seem like a one size fits all, as you said quite rightly, Councillor Black. It might not suit Worth Parish Council or what have you like that, but I think when I read through them, it will bring us into line with most other town councils who are adopting these, and it will give us what's known as best practice from a financial point of view, and I think that's what we should be trying to obtain.
Thank you. And just to add, Councillor Black, as well, any text that is in bold is a legal requirement.
Yes, I understood that. It's just like
So
anything.
4.8 would definitely stand. That is a legal requirement, which is the one council tax unpaid for more than 2 months is prohibited from voting on the budget.
That's just a practicality.
You know, it is a wordy document, perhaps future years we'll try and
Well, it's
edit
probably
it down a bit.
written by a group of lawyers who,
It's a model.
yeah, okay.
Okay, so are we happy to,
Yes, so I'm happy to
propose that we agree
that
that's
approving these.
seconded by Councillor Pennington? All those in favour? So that's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the date and time of the next meeting is the 12th of March 2025. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. 7:22. Meeting closed. Yeah. Thank you.
Shall we move straight on?
Yeah, I just want to check, is anybody excusing themselves?
No, we can't say
Right.
it's
So,
We're going to have a 2-minute break. in the office.
I'm not sure. I think possibly the town clerk and I may have to go next door at some point.
Yes, but I do need to do this meeting
People will
first.
talk. People will talk.
Yeah, but the town clerk's got time to take. Have you got anybody, any other staff?
Yes,
I said, oh, you have?
I have, but
Oh, sorry, I thought
I
you
need to
needed-
be there. Well, 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
hopefully.
indeed.
Okay.
They were just making the chairman aware. It's polite.
Yes, I just wanted to check.
It's just polite to do so.
Right. It should be shorter. I'm always optimistic. Setting expectations.
Just like, can be very short. Also, yes.
Yes, right. Blind optimism, I think.
One thing I appreciate about Councillor Black, I think even a new name, I believe I called him the gatekeeper. Because
The enforcer.
he looks after us when we have any important documents to
Certainly
adopt
does.
or accept.
It does.
Rule number 27 says.
Exactly.
I was listening to a thing on the radio this afternoon on Radio 4 about, and it was the editor of the New Yorker, and he was explaining that they employ what they call okayers to check all of the articles that the journalists have done.
Fact checkers.
These overeducated people, he said. And so the journalist was really keen to know about this and asked if any companies or representatives of any companies that were listening were now are going to go out and employ okayers. So
Stop it.
maybe a town clerk, you need to put an okayer on your.
There's lots of okayers in the town, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on. So it's still the 19th of February.
Yes.
This is this evening's meeting of the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Finance Committee. Agenda item 1, Town Clerk, do we have any apologies?
Yes, Councillor Anderson has a travel commitment.
Thank you very much. And item 2 on the agenda is declaration of interest. Does any member have a disclosable pecuniary interest they would like to declare at this stage? No. Thank you. Item 3 is to receive and approve the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting that was held on the 22nd of January, and that's attachment 1 in the pack. Are there any comments on the minutes? No.
Propose acceptance of those minutes.
Thank you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman.
Anybody happy to second them?
Councillor
Councillor
Wiles.
Wiles, and if you can vote. Thank you. If I could just make reference to the actions that are alongside the minutes. So we've got 3 actions outstanding, F11 24-8, and that was for the finance officer to look again at the STBF properties and discuss with property manager if an additional amounts should be built in the 25-26 budget. And there's more detail in terms of the action, but that is covered under agenda item 7 tonight. So I propose that we'll close this action as it's on the agenda. The second also related to F11 24-8. And there's similarly, it was the finance officer to discuss with property manager the opportunity to undertake an energy efficiency review of the Guildhall and to report back. We did have an interim report, and again, it appears on the agenda later under agenda item 8. So I propose we close this action as well. And the final action was F12 24-7, and that was for the town clerk to feedback the committee's thanks to the property manager for the interim report on energy and efficiency, and that has been done.
Yes.
So that is closed. Okay.
So can I just say, I
Yes.
find it difficult to read that report
Yes.
because it's
I agree.
bullet.
I agree.
So maybe we could just try and.
I agree.
So,
Yeah.
so,
I think we need to find a way of making sure it's stays on one page. It might be a screenshot,
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I have to make sure it's compliant with the website. That's
Yeah,
the PDF.
it's corrupting it.
Yeah.
It gets sent over as a single page view, but
Yeah.
in terms of the
Yeah.
translation into into the website.
Compliant. Yeah, it has to be compliant with the website. That's
Yeah.
the issue.
okay, well,
I think there's another way we can do it, and maybe
Okay.
a screenshot is sorted, but we'll have a look.
Okay.
So item 4 is public participation. Do we have any written
No,
notice?
Chair. No, Chair.
Okay. Item 5, payment schedules and finances. Again, similar to previous meetings, I'd like to separate these out and first take the 3 payment schedules for approval. They are attachments 2A, 2B and 2C. Are there any comments on those payment schedules?
Propose acceptance.
Anybody happy to second them? Councillor Black, one of votes. Very much. Next, we're asked to receive and approve the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund payment schedules for mid-February 2025, Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall payment schedules for the end of January 2025 and mid-February 2025, and finally, Museum and Archives payment schedule for the end of January 2025 and mid-February 2025. Any comments on any of those schedules? No? Somebody have
Propose acceptance of those three items.
We have a second, Councillor Breen, and I'd like to vote on them. Okay. And the next report we're asked to receive and approve is the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund cash book as of the 31st of January 2025. That's attachment D. Again, any comments? No? I'm happy to propose them myself.
I'm happy to second
And the votes. Unanimous. Councillor Black? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next set are the free bank reconciliation reports, attachments 2E to 2G. We're asked to receive and approve the bank reconciliation for Sandwich Tollbridge Fund as of the 31st of January 2025, bank reconciliation for Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall as of the 31st of January 2025, and finally, the bank reconciliation for Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Museum as of 31st of January 2025. Again, any comments on those? No.
Happy to propose acceptance of the reconciliation reports.
And Councillor Pennington seconding them. That's unanimous. Thank you. The final set of the free budget variance reports, attachments 2H to 2J. We're asked to receive and approve the budget variance reports for Sandwich Tollbridge Fund for the end of January 2025, budget variance reports for the Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Guildhall, end of January 2025, and finally the budget variance reports for Sandwich Tollbridge Fund Museum, the end of January 2025. Anybody happy to propose those if there's no comments? Councillor Breen is proposing.
Happy to second that.
And the votes. That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item 6. First of all, we have a report from the Finance Officer that covers issues that were raised previously by the committee. And we then did get confirmation of the responses received back from Quilter Cheviot that were shared with us, I believe, other councillors by email. And we're referring here to attachment 3. So do you want to very quickly recap on that in terms of the content?
Yes, I can do. Yes. So this report was obviously as a result of concerns about some of the fees. So the queries were raised by the RFO, and we are now, the RFO has produced this report to share those updates with you all. So the trustee raised a couple of issues regarding the Tollbridge Fund investments. The first point raised was approved in the Finance Committee meeting on the 12th of December. It was moved by Councillor Breen and seconded by Councillor Ungerson, and resolved that Quilter to be advised that future investments should not include investment into their own investment funds. This request has been relayed to Quilter, and the response was the following. So this information please share with the trustees and let us know if you need any further details. As discussed regarding the trustees' concerns over investing in a Quilter Cheviot fund, the primary worry often surrounds charges. However, we can reassure you that we, as the investment managers, are compensated out of the fund fee, and there are no additional fees for investing in a specialist charity fund. The fund is more cost effective because you are investing in companies directly and not in as many third-party collective funds as before. As a result, the all-in cost of investing within the fund is now 0.67%, which compares very favourably to the overall cost of the segregated portfolio, which was 1.6% in 2024. And they go on to give further background below, which I won't read that, so you've all probably read that.
Yeah.
Second point was raised in the Finance Committee in December. Obviously the charge showed £14,819.62 for the sale of shares, which seemed to be part of the realignment of the portfolio into the new charity account. They did go on to say, please accept their apologies for the confusion. The transaction charges of £14,819.62 were levied in error and were cancelled as soon as they were spotted. They're sorry that this does not seem to have filtered through to the report that you had previously, and a corrected report was shared, which you have this evening. The estimated income figure is correct as it reflects the income yield of the charity fund, which offers a higher level of income than the segregated portfolio. Should the trustees wish to unwind the move into the charity fund, please let them know. But happily, the unit price is usefully higher than it was at the beginning of the year, meaning the current valuation is over £2 million. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we all had the opportunity, because we received those through email as well, and I didn't see any responses, but there's an opportunity here if anybody's got any further comments. But for me, they'd addressed our concerns. Councillor Miles.
Yeah, what is a controversial weapon?
Yeah,
Just interested.
exactly, yeah.
Do you want to check that out? Would you like that to be checked out?
It was just a.
I'm sure it can be asked in passing.
Yes, yes.
I just had, oh yeah, sorry, they have answered our questions as we posed them, but I still think that there is an air of worry or doubt from several councillors. And I believe I was around when we switched over to this organisation, and that's quite a long time ago now. And I think it would be healthy to set up perhaps a smaller working group to look into benchmarking or checking Quilter Cheviot against their peers, and coming back with some ideas of whether we are safe staying with Quilter Cheviot, or whether it would be better to put our portfolio with a newer organisation. I believe, I don't know, obviously the town clerk wouldn't be able to say, but it must be quite a considerable time. It must be coming up for about 10 years or more that we've been with them. So it's only healthy to look into
I'll
the
come back
change.
to that in a minute, if that's okay, Councillor Black.
I don't disagree with what Councillor Carter was saying. It's time to have a look. But I thought the usual approach for that was what was called in pension circles a beauty parade of 3 or 4 companies coming in and telling you what they do and how they do it. The trouble is, I'm not sure we have the financial skills to really compare one investment organisation against another without that kind of input. Well, you've got particular issues here. What we might suggest is X, Y, and Z. When I was a pension trustee, that's the kind of thing we did every few years. It's time consuming, but
That's why I mentioned a working group of financial.
I'm not sure we have the financial skills to analyse that. That's only my only concern.
So I think that suggestion should be noted. But if we recall, if we move back to the transfer across to the new fund that Quilter Cheviot offered to us, we agreed, it might even have been at the full STBF, that we would have a 6-month window to see how the performance improved.
Yeah.
So I think the point is valid, but I think we're slightly ahead of the game in terms of now only having room to the 2nd month, I think, of the new service. And the 1st month was slightly skewed in terms of how they presented information. So I think we can log it, keep it in view, and then we can decide nearer the 6-month stage how we deal with satisfaction or dissatisfaction.
If that's what you wish.
Well, that was only my suggestion. But based on a previous agreement, I don't know if anybody would want to go down a different track now. No. Okay.
Well, I would say I think the previous agreement was made under the premise and that before they switched all of the money into this their own invested charity account. I don't think we really appreciated that, and if we did, I certainly missed it. So I apologise.
Thank you.
But I do think you're right, and I do think I understand the point that Councillor Black is making, and I think that when the time comes, if a small working group is established, I think it would be appropriate for I would like to suggest that the Toll Bridge Funds hires an independent financial advisor to be part of that group, to give some of this expert input.
Thank you. All noted. And then as part of this agenda, item six, there's a second part, which was to receive and note the revised report for December, but also to receive and note the report for January 2025, which is the new report. So I just want to see if there are any comments at all on the latest report we received from Porter Cheviot.
Other than the value of the portfolio has gone down about 50 grand in a month now.
Exactly.
No other comments? No. So we will come back to this next month and the month after, and let's see how the performance goes. But it's not boding too well so far, is it, in terms of seeing a marked improvement in terms of return? Okay. Anybody happy to propose receiving both reports?
I would propose noting the reports, but I hope my comments have been made about looking into this, because
to be reflected in the minutes.
The largest issue that sticks in my throat is the charges. So to do that as an accidental thing, although they've been paid back, does seem quite unusual for
and after we've spotted it.
Only after we've spotted it, they will get back.
But sorry, the other thing is, I just want to double check, because there was charges for selling and charges for purchasing, and I think they've only refunded us one.
Really?
Yeah, I think that there are issues that we shouldn't just leave for 6 months. I think there are issues that we should.
Completely, yes. The 6-month agreement that we made, which I believe was at STBF, was to let the performance of the new funds bed in, and then we would review whether we were happy or not in terms of actually remaining with Porter Cheviot or not. So there is an action there, isn't there, in terms of, can you relay that one again? It's was it yourself, Councillor Black, or Councillor Breen raised the issue?
Councillor Breen, about the buying and selling charges.
I'll have a look at that.
So my proposal is to note both the reports.
Second. Councillor Pennington seconding, and a vote. That's unanimous, thank you. Agenda item 7, it's a report from Finance Officer in response to the action F1124-8 on how unexpected and urgent expenditure for a toll bridge fund asset might be addressed during this coming financial year. So we've all had that report. It's a short report. Don't need to go through it. I don't think Town Clerk, I think we all have read it. Can I take any comments on that if there are any, or are we happy to accept what's been presented?
I propose that we just accept it.
It is what it is. Councillor Carter P.
Councillor
Black has proposed it.
Thank you.
Councillor P. Carter has
Thank
seconded
you.
it.
Yes.
Thank you. Agenda item 8. This is a report from the property manager on his work to identify energy efficiency savings that might be achieved in the Guildhall. We're asked to receive and note the report. Could I ask the Town Clerk just to give us a summary of what's included? Yes.
So obviously the first report that you had mentioned things like solar panels. So there was a scope of approaches. Anyway, the property manager has done further work, and obviously the two wins that we can achieve in a relatively short space of time is insulation and upgrading the lighting where we can have more energy efficiency. The interim report was in December 2024. He's now done the exercise and shared his findings and recommendations. So you'll see that the cost of gas and electric, he's given you those figures there. and highlighted that the RFO did negotiate a new contract with British Gas for the electric and gas in September 2024. We don't have the figures for the winter period at this stage, but the calculations are estimated for 24-25 of £33,000. So the in-house assessment, rather than via a service provider, so Watkins FM Solutions quoted £1,280 plus VAT to create their report, and this would have been a 2-day exercise, 1 day on site and the other producing the report. The current heating system, the boiler was replaced within the last 4 years at great expense, but it is a very complex system. It's partly due to having 2 distinct areas of the building, and the controls are locked within a wall-mounted control panel in the boiler room. We shouldn't be accessing the control panel as we're not qualified, and obviously that could be highly dangerous. There's quite a beast that boiler as well. He has explored the possibility of being able to control the heating manually using the 2 new control units that will be located each side of the building with override buttons. The price to supply and install the new panels, £4,329 plus VAT. On another subject related to the boiler, he noticed that the radiators and the hot water in the kitchen and the WCs do get very hot. And we have been measuring and keeping an eye on the temperature of the hot water, and it has actually reached 73.6 degrees centigrade. Obviously, on the HSE website, that temperature is too high.
Yeah.
We've sought the advice of our local plumber, and he suggested we can reduce the temperature level on the boiler, but he's not qualified to work on commercial appliances, and therefore we will need to instruct Watkins to make that adjustment. The cost is £125 plus VAT. So he goes on to talk about the summary on the current boiler system, and saying that the measures in place will ensure that we control the temperature of the radiators. So these duties will be carried out by the property manager and the ops team. But also it is incumbent on the officers as well, the rest of the team, to make sure we play our part in as well, to make sure radiators turned off or turned down. Insulation. So this is the one part that hopefully you'll support. The first step was to inspect the area and take the measurements. There is currently just 100 millimetres of loft insulation within the modern part of the building, and there are sections that have got no insulation at all. The current insulation is very old, probably from the 1970s, so it won't be effective any longer. Based on the latest standards, we should have a minimum of 270 mil. Typically, people lay a total of 300 mil by using 100 mil laid in the joists and 200 mil that go widthways on top. On recent projects he's undertaken, he's increased that to 400 mil, and there is a noteworthy difference. So he goes on to explain how that will be achieved. So the area that will receive the new installation is the first floor landing from the side of the lift towards the gallery, the main hall and the archive store. And this is 300 square metres, equivalent to the footprint of 3 large bungalows. The insulation method used across the modern area of the building will create what is known as a cold loft. Then he talks about the insulation under the roof. This area is accessed from the drop-down ladder on the inner hallway outside the WCs and the kitchen, and extends slightly into the jury room. This loft space is boarded, and there are numerous items stored in that part of the building. They won't be lifting floorboards to apply the insulation, and the boarding is required to provide access to pipes and pumps. However, we can fix foil-backed insulation that is breathable across the voids between the roof rafters. And this will create what is known in the industry as a warm loft. So he talks about the important points when installing loft insulation, and then importantly talks about the cost of the insulation work. So he's obviously done all the measurements and got all the figures together. So you're looking at £2,451.24 for using the cold loft method. And the breathable foil insulation for the warm loft is £1,296. The total cost is £3,122.70 plus VAT. On top of that as well, insulating the exposed pipe work, and there's an awful lot of that here. There's over 400 metres of exposed pipes. This allowance within the Guildhall not restricted to the jury room, council chamber, the offices, is estimated at £1,300 plus VAT. We will look to the ops team to undertake this work as well, which is another cost saving compared to paying a contractor. So in summary, he said that using the online calculator, the changes in the loft area, including the warm loft section, should save around £1,500 a year. And we'll also make savings by insulating the exposed pipework, and information is provided at the end of the report for you. So it's a very comprehensive report, I have to say it's good. Obviously, solar panels now, we've spoken to the insurance company, so they are ruled out. They said you wouldn't actually be able to have insurance in the building with solar panels, and that's to do with the storage batteries issue. The lighting, so this has been time consuming, and he must thank the trusted electrical contractors, Wyman's. They've been absolutely hugely supportive with this. Some lamps and lights have been replaced. I certainly replaced a few since I've been here as well, but we still do have others that need updating with LED lamps. The remaining lamps, surprisingly, you won't be surprised, are the ones that are most challenging because they have become obsolete. And so what we're looking at is retrofitting existing rather than buying new ones, because obviously that would be very cost effective. So the quote to carry out the work is £2,409, and then the annual savings in relation to the lights is estimated to be in the region of £177.04. Although the savings may appear to be on the low side, we must consider that the current lamps are either not available to purchase or very expensive. The other suggestion he has, which obviously is a longer term aspiration, is an installation of a glass door in the hall downstairs. This has been quite popular with people that he's had conversations with, and it would provide a barrier to stop warm air rushing out of the building every time the main front door is open, and it would also give that added sense of security. If the doors are located within the archway just before the reception area, that is the ideal location in the property manager's opinion. He hasn't, because of time constraints, he hasn't had time to focus on that yet, but he looked quickly at guide prices and they're around £6,000 plus VAT. But obviously that may seem an expense, but there is a lot of work involved with installing doors of that nature. So he will revert back to you following engagement with specialist contractors and providers. So then he just summarises for you other points about secondary double glazing and curtains, which are obviously aspects that are, well, certainly the secondary double glazing would be an expenditure, and quite vast sums. Curtains obviously is something we can look at that isn't as costly. And then he's given you a really great table there, a summary of green that he's looking for support to proceed with. The red solar panels and the control panels, his opinion, it wouldn't be cost effective to proceed with those. And the amber is where he's awaiting further information. He then talks about how to fund the project, which is another vital piece of information. There was £8,000, including VAT, put aside in the budget for air conditioning, but that would have only been a proposal if the solar panels were installed, because the idea was the air conditioning would be run from the energy we were harvesting from the solar panels. Obviously, the cost of running air conditioning won't be very cost effective without the solar panels. As the solar panels are not viable, this would make the installation unnecessary cost. So perhaps that budget could be reassigned to the energy and efficiency project. So in conclusion, we have the opportunity of making noteworthy savings by implementing the changes. Insulation work by preventing heat transfer, whether it's keeping the heat inside during winter or preventing heat from entering in the summer. It is the latter that will make a real difference, as the high electricity bill is as a result of large fans being used in the summer months. He's very confident that his estimated savings will be achieved and most likely be exceeded. To his recommendations, please read the report and support his proposal for actioning the items shown in green for a cost of £6,956.70. I would also ask that consideration is given to the proposal for reassigning part of the budget that is reserved for air conditioning units, as the air conditioning units will not be required. Thank you.
Thank you.
I propose we approve his both of his recommendations.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, so let's rush away. So my first comment was going to be, I think this is the best report that the property manager has done, and it really justifies the value of why we've employed somebody who actually knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
But also the second point I wanted to make about report, what it demonstrates is we are not necessarily repairing stuff that's aged over time. What we're actually doing is addressing issues that have never been addressed. And I think that is just, it's another thing that we're trying to sort out. But it's an excellent report, and we must give that
Thank you. I agree.
response back to
This,
Julian.
so just to say, these works are massively long overdue.
Yeah.
In matter of fact, as Councillor Wiles and whoever was on the interview committee knows, from the 2 interviews we did, this was exactly what we were looking for the incumbent of this office to undertake. So I'm so pleased to see this, and like Councillor Breen, so
Can't wait to
eager,
approve it.
so eager to get the work done.
And it's not just the work he's done; it's how he's presented it,
Exactly.
and it is completely presented in a manner that we can understand and follow.
Well, he's gone over the mark because he's put in the glass doors.
And he's used colours in his report, which
We
is brilliant.
we didn't even ask for
I
those.
know. Well, a number of us have been talking about glass doors.
Well, I support the comments about it's being an excellent report. It's readable. It says everything that needs to be said. I appreciate that it was produced under a lot of time pressure as well. I did just have one simple question, which is that it proposes a budget use which wasn't foreseen. I'll just be happier if the RFO was in agreement with that.
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Thank you. Any Councillor Black?
I'm just a little surprised that there's still going to be a reply on manually to adjust radius and so on. I think it's very disappointing that control panels are going to be so expensive, because in the longer term, you rely upon machines to do the things, and you allow people to get on with more value-added items. But if that's what it is, that's what it is. It just seems very surprising that a different control system is going to be so expensive. But I'm not an engineer, so.
And Councillor Miles?
Yeah, I wholeheartedly support this proposal. It's a great report, and it's exactly what we were hoping for when we appointed the property manager. Just mention the glass doors because there's an energy issue, but also it makes the building much more accessible and welcoming.
It does.
When we had the art exhibition up in the gallery, when the doors were propped open, many more people came into the building.
Yeah.
So there's a double benefit from that.
So I think that's enough conversation. So Councillor Breen has proposed.
Yep.
Councillor Wiles has seconded it.
Yes.
Sorry. You got me.
Sorry.
Any good votes? Thank you very much.
Unanimous.
Yep. Excellent. So I'll be taken to the, and it's not to the full council, is it? It's obviously to the full.
The trustee.
Yeah. Final item, date and time of next meeting, Wednesday the 12th of March 2025, and it will follow Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting on that evening. Thank you very much.
Thank
For
you.
those who are going to the meal, enjoy yourselves.
Some of us have got to.
I know you do.
Obligation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You'll find sick bed.
You're a hero. That's all I keep on saying to all of you. Just a hero.
Ooh.